Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Monday, January 26th. Before we get started, there is no court tomorrow for Brendan Banfield. Fairfax County updated their website saying that all government offices will remain closed due to ice. It's probably going to be a very day-to-day thing. I know here we're going to refreeze overnight because we're getting down to like 9 degrees. And I would imagine Virginia would be no different. So it could be a few days before we get back in the courtroom there. And I know everybody's waiting on it because Brendan's attorney said he would be taking the stand. So since we don't have court for the next couple of days, I want to update on some cases we've been following. It's just impossible when I'm doing trial to really have time for anything else. So we're going to start with Kouri Richins. And a lot is being filed under seal at this point since jury summons have already been sent out. But the judge did rule that 5 pages from an orange notebook found in Kouri's home could be admitted as evidence, but only if prosecutors first meet very specific requirements. The court had previously denied a request to include the material, but the judge says the state must make a showing before it can be used at trial next month. Prosecutors say the first 5 pages of this orange notebook contain Kouri's own account of the day Eric died, including details about the timeline, her movements, and what Eric Richins consumed. Prosecutors say that those details, when compared to other evidence, make it more likely Kouri poisoned him with fentanyl. The defense pushed back, saying that prosecutors cannot prove when the notes were written or under what circumstances. And they also say that notebook shouldn't be used in the state's case in chief. They're saying only if Kouri testifies and her story conflicts with what's written inside that notebook. So we'll see if prosecutors meet that threshold to allow that in. The judge also ruled the allegations Eric abused Kouri will not be allowed in. The state says Kouri told her father-in-law that Eric punched her, which resulted in a black eye and a busted lip. Kouri said she had video proof of this, but the state's motion notes that the video was never provided and nothing was found on her phone. So what's left that the judge needs to rule on? The judge decided he would rule at trial whether or not the allegations that Eric used drugs in high school can be brought into trial. I think this is so ridiculous. I mean, that man was in his 30s. We are 2 decades away from that time in our life. And it seems to me it would be hearsay anyway, unless you have something specifically that Eric wrote down or recorded saying he did drugs. Hopefully that stays out. It's just a hit piece. He also held off on ruling about parts of an interview Kouri gave, as well as jail calls and text messages. As far as expert witnesses, the state wants to bring in a behavioral threat assessment expert. She won't be able to testify during the case in chief, and it wouldn't be used to suggest Kouri's guilt. But the judge did say the witness could be called during the state's rebuttal if the state presents a broad explanation of how violent crimes occur, and also if the defense opens the door. A handwriting expert will also be allowed to testify about alleged financial crimes and a signature on a power of attorney. Most recently, the defense filed documents accusing the state of intimidating their own witnesses, saying that the state has harassed witnesses. They're asking the prosecution turn over all communication between them, their investigators, and process servers. In the motion, they're identified as W1 and W2. And they say that these 2 people allegedly reached out to the defense, sharing some of the messages they had with investigators and also asking the defense for protection. One of the messages from W1 alleges that the witness was not wanting to meet with the state before trial and says lead investigator Detective O'Driscoll started to pressure them saying, "Make your life easier and answer our calls so we can prep you on what you'll be asked. Otherwise, the next time I knock on your door, I'll have a warrant and a catch pole for the dog." As for W2, they've shared communications with the defense that they've had involving investigator Travis Hopper. In the exchange, W2 says, "I've already given a statement and I'm not interested in talking about this any further." To which investigator Hopper allegedly responded, "I understand your position and acknowledge that you have previously provided a statement. However, I want to clarify the immunity granted by the prosecution remains conditional upon continued cooperation. Declining to participate further may place that immunity at risk. Accordingly, your cooperation is still required. The defense says this equals a violation of Utah law, which protects witnesses from threats in an official proceeding. In the filing, the defense says certainly threatening to arrest someone who will not discuss their testimony prior to trial, or threatening to withdraw immunity, or threatening to harm their dog would suffice as harm under the statute. Such conduct constitutes a third-degree felony. The state so far has not responded to that motion, or if they have, it's under seal and we don't know about it. Kouri's next hearing is set for February 2nd. Jury selection begins on February 10th. We are getting there, y'all. This is definitely one of the biggest trials I'm most interested in covering this year. Moving on to the Tepe murders, Michael McKee is charged with 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary in the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe. He was extradited back to Franklin County, Ohio, and his arraignment was on January 23rd. He pleaded not guilty through his attorney, and he also waived bond. So why 4 counts for 2 people? Ohio law said he killed them with premeditation, and that is a subsection in Ohio's aggravated murder law. The other 2 murder charges were for killing them while committing aggravated burglary, which is a violent crime under Idaho law. Investigators did find multiple weapons at his home in Chicago, including the weapon they believe was used in the murders after a preliminary test showed a match between evidence from the crime scene through a national ballistics database. The firearm allegedly also had a suppressor. Investigators also have confirmed the surveillance video of the person walking in the alley close to the Tepe home around the times the murders took place is indeed Michael McKee. It's so sad because their youngest child, who's just a year and a half old, was found in a crib crying and had obviously been there for hours after his parents were killed. Their 4-year-old daughter also in the home. I hope to God she did not see anything. But Monique's brother-in-law told People by the time Spencer and Monique were found, he would have been awake for a while and obviously had not eaten since the night before. Jonathan Navarre, who was a roommate of Michael and Monique's from 2013 to 2014, said McKee seemed obsessed with Monique, but he also saw no signs of abuse, and there wasn't really anything that raised red flags. He said Michael was a good fraternity brother, and he was sociable and very fun to be around. Monique's brother-in-law said Monique just had to get away from Michael because he was emotionally abusive. He told Good Morning America, myself and many others were well aware of kind of the negative impact he had on her and the abuse that he put her through, the torment that he put her through. She was willing to do anything to get out of there. He also said Monique was very vocal about being terrified of Michael up until her death. He said the emotional abuse changed Monique as a person. A friend of Monique's from college said Monique never described Michael as a stalker, but she did talk about his behavior during the marriage and said he was emotionally abusive and controlling. In spite of that, Monique was said to have left the marriage brokenhearted, but she didn't look back. Michael and Monique still shared mutual friends, and he did keep up with Monique through them. She also thinks that seeing Monique thriving with Spencer and their children shattered what she calls Michael's fragile little ego. Spencer's sister, who is an artist, spoke to People magazine and said Spencer was the biggest fan of her art. In fact, she made princess dresses for Spencer and Monique's daughter to wear on Christmas Eve. She was said to be dancing around. She said on Christmas night, Spencer and her husband, Rob, stayed up late playing pool in the basement. She said neither of them wanted to go to sleep. Rob said, I hate to say that was the last real bro time I had with him. When Spencer and Monique left to go back to Ohio on December 27th, Rob was still asleep, and he said he didn't get to say goodbye, which he says now haunts him. Just days after the murders, Rob and some of Spencer's friends gathered to remember him, and someone realized there was no music playing, and he said, yeah, because Spencer's not here. Spencer's cousin, Audrey Mackey, said after the couple met online in 2018, they immediately fell in love, and Monique told her that on one of their first dates, they just talked all night and couldn't take their eyes off of each other. Speaking of music, Spencer was known to play DJ at parties his friends would have, and he and Monique both loved animals. Spencer also served as a youth mentor for over 10 years on weekends when he was off work. Monique, on the other hand, was more of a homebody who loved baking and playing board games. Their children, by the way, were born in 2022 and then 2024. Those children are with family, and a GoFundMe has raised more than $200,000 to provide stability and care for the kids. Their funeral had over 1,000 people in attendance, and the funeral home said it was the largest crowd for a funeral they've ever had. Just a horrible, sad case. I mean, every photo of them, they look like they were just the best couple. What a shame. Jealousy will make you do some very, very evil things. Just a little quick tidbit about Ashlee Buzzard, who's accused of killing her beautiful daughter, Melody. Her preliminary hearing has been postponed again as discovery comes in, and her next hearing is set for February 11th. So tomorrow we'll catch up on a few other things, but that's it for today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.